Florence Nightingale was an amazing woman who impacted the world of nursing tremendously. Florence Nightingale was born in Florence, Italy on May 12, 1820, and was named after the city she was born in. Her mother, Frances, came from a family of merchants, while her father, William, was a wealthy landowner. Florence and her sister Parthenope were raised on one of the two inherited estates at Lea Hurst. There, her father taught her a very classical education in math, science, English, French, Italian, German, and more. While her mother enjoyed the social life with her sister, Florence would much rather be learning and caring for the ill people around her family's estate. At the young age of 16, Florence felt that nursing was her calling from God, but when she went to tell her parents about it, they were not pleased with her decision. They forbid her from becoming a nurse because women of her class were meant to be a housewife and a stay-at-home mother. She even refused a marriage proposal from a suitable man at the age of 17. After that, Florence began visiting hospitals in 1844 for 11 days. She did this because she was disappointed in the lack of education and jobs for women. Nightingale was interested in seeing what was out there and how the hospitals were. One year her parents sent her with her friends in 1849. There she met two St. Vincent de Paul sisters who showed her the true discipline and organization. She took these findings with her when she entered the Crimean War. Between July 31st to August 13, 1850, Nightingale had made her first visit to the Institute of Protestant Deaconess at Kainsworth. The institute was a training school for women, teachers, and nurses. She continued her training, and in 1851 she spent 4 months training as a sick nurse. Then, in 1853, she became the superintendent of establishment for gentlewomen during illness in London. In March of 1854, Britain, France, and Turkey declared war on Russia, and for the next 2 years, British, French, Sardinian, and Turkish troops would fight against Russians in the Crimean War. All of the wounded soldiers from the British troops were shipped across the Black Sea to medical stations in Turkey. These medical stations had clothes of the soldiers that were swarming with bugs, lice, and fleas. The floors, walls, and ceilings were filthy, and rats were hiding under the beds. Blood and manure was everywhere, with no clean sheets, beds, or medical supplies. At the fast rate that soldiers were dying, they needed nurses to help take care of them. This is why Florence and 38 other nurses went to the hospital in Scutari on November 4th, 1854. Her first order of business was cleaning the filthy monstrosity. She bought 200 Turkish towels. She later provided an enormous supply of clean shirts, plenty of soap, and such necessities as plates, knives, forks, cups, and glasses. Even though she was dropping the death rates from 42% to 2%, she still had trouble with the military officers. They considered her incompetent. They, in turn, considered her unfeminine and a nuisance. That didn't stop Florence. She worked endlessly to care for the soldiers themselves, making her rounds during the night after the medical officers had retired. This is how she earned the title of the Lady with the Lamp. The New York Times published, "She is a ministering angel, without any exaggeration in these hospitals, and as her slender form glides quietly along each corridor, every poor fellow's face softens with gratitude at the sight of her. When all the medical officers have retired for the night, and silence and darkness have settled down upon those miles of prostrate sick, she may be observed alone with a little lamp in her hand, making her solitary round." When Florence left the war in 1856, she pioneered a brand new method for bringing about social change. She applied statistics. She began this because even though many people were proud of her, Florence, despite her efforts, had thousands of men die. Florence was curious as to the reasons why. However, also during this time, she began a campaign for reform. Even Queen Victoria appointed the Royal Commission to the Army Medical Department. Yet, those efforts didn't seem to be enough. Florence then asked for the help of William Farr, who had just recently created the field of medical statistics. which are tables of statistics about how many people had died, where, and why. Nightingale's best-known graphic of statistics is known as the coxcomb. It is a variation on the pie graph showing the number of deaths each month and their causes. This graph places the same month in different years in the same position on the circle, which made it easy to compare across seasons. She developed the polarity diagram to dramatize the needless deaths caused by unsanitary conditions and the need for reform. These statistics provided an organized way of learning and led to improvements in medical and surgical practices. With all of her statistics, Florence issued a report, Notes on Matters Affecting the Health of the British Army, in 1858 to the Royal Commission. After that, her recommendations led to the forming of the United States Sanitary Commission. By her death in 1910 at the age of 90, Nightingale had lived to see enormous change occur in the medical field because of her work. She broke through gender barriers, made nursing an organized and respectable profession, created suitable environments for caretaking, and health conditions improved in the military through her work and research during the Crimean War. All the health conditions began to improve throughout England through her nursing schools that many women were inspired to go to. Her work was valuable to society and set a foundation for high sanitary standards. The world of nursing is completely changed because of Florence Nightingale's amazing contributions and work to the world of nursing.